Hello YugiTube, it's Emma Blue Eyes 10 here with a thoughts video on a recent topic that has been coming up in the Yu-Gi-Oh community, and I wish to give my own thoughts and opinions on this, and I do hope you guys enjoy. Now, this topic has been breached by MCO40, TCG Lover, and my good friend Dark Artician 84, and the topic in question is how winning locals means nothing, it means you're not a good player and all that. Now, there are some things I do agree with, and there are some things, of course, that I am very sceptical of and don't agree with. So I'm going to give both sides of what I think, and of course, if you guys just want to point down in the comments below or send me a message or anything about how you feel about this topic, feel free to, and I look forward to reading them. Right, how winning locals means nothing, it means you're not a good player. Well, the way MCO40, I think he was the one who started this topic debate off, the way he was saying is, at locals you have certain players who go there, and some of them you can easily beat in that. For example, there's the collector player who just collects cards and only plays in the tournament just to show off these cards and that, apparently. There's the casual player who just plays, not for fun, of course, and then there's the meta players, competitive players who, of course, win the locals every week, and of course there's also players there who net deck or are, in Dark Artician 84's terms, snobbish elitists who try to win as much as they can with the meta deck and then end up losing and making life miserable for everybody else sometimes. He says those kind of people at the locals can't really define how good you are in Yu-Gi-Oh! You have to go to big events like YCS's Regionals, World Championship in order to determine how good you really are. Now, to some extent, I agree with that. Now, mind you, I have never ever been to a YCS or a Regional, ever. Because, one, I can't afford it. Two, unfortunately, I live in Scotland, right? And a lot of these YCSs are held, or regionals that are held down in England, which is too far for me to travel. And in all honesty, my family's not really keen on me, a young lady, travelling down alone to these kind of big cities and everything, because obviously I do not know my way around and all that kind of thing. As I said, I can't afford to go because the distances grew too great, and also I do have a job, I have a work life and everything, so unfortunately I can't get enough time off to go to these kind of events. However, I do agree that going to these kind of big events, even if it's only once in a while, can actually help determine just how good you are, because obviously it's a much, much bigger player ratio than at your locals. I mean, with locals you have a minimum of 8 people to have a locals, but the maximum amount of locals maybe I've seen, just from my own personal experiences at Mad for Miniatures and stuff like that, and also at Anime Republic in Edinburgh, is about 35-40 people maximum I've seen, and maybe about the top 10-15 players will be the best, the absolute best, the ones who win nearly every week or make it into top 8, etc, and all that. Of course, in a YCS or regional, of course, there can be up to 3,000 plus, 4,000 plus people there, which means in these kind of big events, if you want to really determine how good you are, you need a lot of concentration, because the rounds, of course, are much bigger than 6 or 7 rounds. I think I've heard there's been up to 12 rounds or more in these kind of events. There's a lot of people going to be playing the same deck, so you're going to have the skill and knowledge to get around these kind of decks and everything. And of course, in general, a lot of good luck as well to make sure you can get as far as you can go. With locals, however, you can still determine how good you are to some extent, right? And the way I see it is, when you duel somebody at your locals, right, it's always best to try and duel someone who is stronger than you if you want to get better, because the more you start to win against them and their types of deck and everything, then obviously it means your skill is slowly improving as well. I mean, that's what I try to do. I try to go against some of the best players at my locals when I do get to go. And I may lose most of the duels, but on occasion I will win one duel out of a match. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, in all honesty, but to me that's an achievement, that I am improving slightly. Not as much as I want to, but I am improving slightly. And not everything as well. Because, in general, when you duel somebody who isn't as good as you, or is new to the game, or just isn't as strong as you are, what does that prove? Nothing, really. And I think that's where MCO40 was coming from with the locals, that if you know you're quite a good player and you go up against a lot of casual players or players who play meta decks but don't know how to run them properly or anything like that, and you beat them all the time, it doesn't prove anything to them. It just shows you can beat them, basically, and that's it. But it doesn't show just how good you are unless you actually put yourself against the best players in the locals. However, saying that, if it's the best players going against each other every week, there's always the competitive of they're just going to be on the same level, no one's going to be better than the other, because one week it could be one guy, and the next week it could be another, it could be the girl who wins, etc, etc, that sort of thing. Whereas with YCSs, it's a bit more bigger, obviously, because of the ratio of people and everything, and the range of decks that you come across, whereas with locals it's much more variable just because it is on a much smaller scale. But that doesn't mean it doesn't mean nothing, because as I mentioned earlier, and I'm pretty sure this is true for a lot of people, some of us just can't afford to go to these big events. We can't afford to go to YCS or regionals or anything because either they're too far away, we can't get time off work, we can't afford it, simple as that. So we see locals as the next best thing, and there's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with just keeping your attention on locals. If you're wanting to improve yourself and just do your best there every week and all that. And if you do get a chance to go to these big events and to really prove how good you are, then, wonderful, that's great, But, as I said, with this big debate coming out and all that, locals are necessary because because obviously you need them to get into these big events. They rank you on how well you do at locals in order to get into these big events and everything, with the COSI system and all that. And, and that sort of thing. So winning locals doesn't make you a bad player. That argument, I think, is flawed, I feel, because it depends really on where you stand in the community and everything, and where you stand on how you feel about your locals and YCSs. A lot of people see locals as their big event, right? Because as I said, they can't go to a big YCS or regionals or anything like that at all. So they see locals as the next best thing to improve themselves, to get better, to win. Nothing wrong with that. Whereas other people who can go to these kind of events feel that the YCSs are a better choice for showing how good you are, and that winning locals does mean very little just because it's a smaller player base, basically. But the thing is, in truth, in my opinion, there's no true bad players in Yu-Gi-Oh! Unless they really decide to allow themselves to be, and everything. At the end of the day, in a duel and everything, all you can do is try your best, and sometimes you'll have luck on your side that'll get you the wins and everything. Sometimes Lady Luck will decide not to give you a good win and all that. It happens. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game of skill and luck. It doesn't matter where you go, whether it's a locals or YCS or anything. It's a game of skill and luck and concentration and everything, and those three aspects, I think, decide at the end of the day how good a player are you, really, in all honesty. That, and also having fun and just trying your absolute best no matter what, because that's what games and life is about in general, is giving your absolute best shot, giving it your all, and seeing how you can cope with it and everything. Anyway, guys, I think that's it for this video. It's just a short, quick video on this topic. I like to hear your thoughts and opinions. Post them down below. Do video responses or whatever. I'm looking forward to reading them and seeing them and everything. And remember, this is a game, guys, right? It's not like a huge serious thing, except to some people probably. But the thing is, no matter where you go, if you try your best, you'll always be a winner, no matter what. Cheesy, but it's true, unfortunately. Anyway, guys, take care, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!